Hello and welcome to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Malt, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game, and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Malt. Go to gridironmalt.com. I am Evan Witallison, joined today after a couple weeks absence from doing the show with me. I'm joined by Troy Kradovic, and we're here today to talk about the Green Bay Packers' upcoming game against the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers are coming off a very thrilling Hail Mary victory over the Detroit Lions, a game looking like it was lost for the Packers. Packers did not lead for a single minute during the 60 minutes of regulation at all, and they scored on a untimed down thanks to I guess you could call it controversial face mask penalty on Detroit, 15-yarder. The guy gave the Packers another opportunity, and Aaron Rodgers just throws a heave up there. When you take into account how high the ball was in the air, it sailed almost 80 yards to Richard Rodgers' hands in the end zone. And my voice was really hoarse the next day, as I'm sure many other Packer fans were, with that thrilling victory. And fun fact, the Packers, last time, they did not score at all in the first half of a game, was the infamous Hail Mary game. Packers did not score at all in the first half against Detroit, and they win this game on a Hail Mary. So I guess if you could kind of call it redemption. You know, the Hail Mary is not a dirty word amongst Packer fans anymore. Still a little bit with Badger fans, but not so much Packer fans anymore. Before we go into any further detail, though, I do want to bring in my awesome co-host, Troy. How are you doing today, man?
Oh, doing good. You know, it's been a crazy winter. The weather is beautiful. You know, hoodie weather out here. Doesn't feel like December. Doesn't feel like 16 days till Christmas. It is just a beautiful, I'm going to call it a fall day, not a winter day out here. But, again, you know, get on and talk Green Bay Packer football. Then later tonight we get to do our show, the Red Light Sports Ramble, talk a little bit Major League Baseball. So great night for sports. Looking forward to talking Packers and then talking some baseball, 11 o'clock Eastern. So how are things out in the great state of Wisconsin?
It feels like spring, believe it or not. It was almost 50 degrees today. It's supposed to be 50 degrees again tomorrow, and then it's supposed to be in the 50s over the weekend. Now, like I said, it's almost spring-like. It's not going to be that warm up in Green Bay on Sunday. It's supposed to be in the 40s with potential of rain. But it's been very spring-like lately here, and it's, you know, I'm usually one that likes having snow on the ground at Christmas time. I'm one of those people, you know, want a white Christmas kind of thing. But I don't mind that we don't have snow on the ground right now. It makes driving a lot easier, I think, because I drive a lot more for work. I think that might be part of the reason why. I have to drive my own personal car, I should say, a lot more for work. But I don't mind it too much. Now, moving on to the game, because we do have a lot to talk about. Packers are coming off a win. Cowboys are coming off their own thrilling win in a game that it didn't look like anyone wanted to score touchdowns at all for most of the game. 2 touchdowns were scored in the last minute 30. Cowboys scored a touchdown. Many people thought they maybe scored a little too soon, which turned out they might have, but the Cowboys ended up kicking the game-winning field goal to knock off Washington. And funny thing about the Cowboys, not only are they a game out of first place in their division, they're also a game or two out of having the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Just to give you an idea of just how bad that NFC East is. But regardless of how bad that NFC East is, the Cowboys are still a professional football team. And this is definitely a game that is not going to be a cakewalk for Green Bay. You know, just to give you some interesting numbers on the Cowboys. They are currently 22nd in sack percentage. Throw that one out there because that's going to be important later on. You know, questions they have, can Matt Castle get the ball into playmakers' hands? They have a couple in Des Bryant, who hasn't quite played right since he came back from his foot injury. Jason Witten, even though he's been playing in the NFL for almost 50 years, it seems like, he's still a threat across the middle. Doesn't run quite as well anymore, but still a threat. So the question is, can Matt Castle, that same Matt Castle that started some games for the Vikings, that started some games for the Chiefs, started a number of games for the Patriots, that same Matt Castle. Cowboys run the ball about 4% of the time. Last year, they're about 51% of the time, but DeMarco Murray means not too much running the ball. I'm going to start with the Cowboys offense. We're going to talk Packers defense first. But the Cowboys they are currently 26th in giveaways, 27th in yards, and 29th in points. They don't turn the ball over a lot, but they don't score a lot of points either. They run a lot of under center. Castle's going to spend a lot of time under the center with one back in the backfield, 2 tight end sets a lot, and they're going to work on mixing in with play action. The strength of the Cowboys is their offensive line. Tyrone Smith is one of the better left tackles in all of the NFL. Very good feet, very good arm, very good hands. He's one that's very tough to get across. Collins, the guard out of LSU, who went undrafted after it came out like 2 nights before the draft that the police wanted to talk to him with connection of a murder. That's looking like a steal for the Cowboys because he's been playing really well. The center is Travis Frederick, former Wisconsin offensive lineman. And the one weak link in this team, on this offensive line, if they have one, Troy, is Doug Free. He is the right tackle, doesn't bend that well anymore. And he's a guy that the Packers could get some pressure on the quarterback with, especially if you put a pass rusher like Jay Elliott over there. You can create some havoc coming off that right side of the offense. Quarterback, obviously Matt Castle. He's 1-4 this year as a starter, 34-42 during his career. He's the type of quarterback that's slow, drop back delivery. He has below average accuracy, and he seldom delivers the ball down the field. That's the one thing that is going to be beneficial for the Packers. And then Darren McFadden is the running back, and he's a guy that fumbles often. He has really good straight line speed, but he goes down on first contact quite a bit, and he doesn't really hit the hole very well. If he hits the hole, he can be gone. But injuries have really deterred him from being the superstar that he was in college. And the 2 best offensive weapons they have is Jason Witten, who I mentioned before, and Dez Bryant. Dallas is going to try to get the ball into Witten and Dez Bryant's hands. Look for Sam Shields to be covering Dez Bryant. Shields, after that first Chicago game, has quietly had a very strong season so far. And Jason Witten, they're going to want to get into his hands, especially since the Packers tend to struggle on those crossing routes across the middle to tight ends. They struggle to cover the tight ends. Jake Ryan will be starting a middle linebacker alongside Clay Matthews. Clay Matthews is, in fact, listed on the depth chart, the starting middle linebacker pairing alongside with the rookie Ryan. So Ryan's getting his first official start, and Clay Matthews is, I think, for the first time this year, listed as a starting middle linebacker. To beat the Cowboys with the Packers on defense, they got to get pressure on Castle. Get him uncomfortable, get him off his spot. He is a guy that can still take off and run for a first down from time to time, but he's not going to kill you with his feet. But you've got to get him off his spot. You've got to get him uncomfortable. He's a guy that's going to throw interceptions. He's got a very slow release. So you have time to get after him. He doesn't get the ball up very quickly. But that's going to be key. Get Castle contained and rattle his cage a little bit. You got him, as I said, Jason Witten, Dez Bryant, you got to account for them. They're the ones that are really going to give you a lot of trouble. And you can't let McFadden run free. The front seven's got to play a strong game. If the front seven can play a strong game, slowing down McFadden, getting after Castle, it could be a very long day for the Cowboys offense. This is the one area of the game the Packers should have no problem, if all goes well, in matching up against the Cowboys. We'll talk about the offensive side of the ball for the Packers in a bit, but that's the one area that they should have no problem matching up against the Cowboys. Packers defense should be able to slow down this Cowboy offense. They haven't been very good since excuse me, they haven't been very good since Tony Romo got hurt the first time. And I don't see that really changing too much. Jaron Elliott, and Julius Peppers, I think are going to be two key guys, especially if they come off against Doug Free. Peppers will rush Free, and then Elliott can bring that speed off the edge. So if I'm the Packers, I'm rotating Elliott in with Peppers, and I'm just rotating in and out with those two. Give Free different guys. Don't let him get comfortable being able to, okay, this is Peppers. He's going to bowl me. I can prepare for that. Or Elliott, he's just a speed guy. You got to throw both guys in and out at him so he can't get too comfortable. But this is the one area where I think the Packers will be fine. Cowboys don't have much outside wide receiver outside of Dez Bryant, and Bryant hasn't been too good. And Matt Castle doesn't get the ball downfield very well. The corners and the safeties got to do a good job of keeping the receivers in front of them. Because I'm sure Castle has it in him to potentially throw deep at least once a game. But that's just something the Packers got to work at. So when you're looking at the Packers from a defensive perspective, against this Cowboy offense, what are your keys for the defense?
Well, you had mentioned this offensive line that the Cowboys have. They spent a lot of first-round draft picks, a lot of high draft picks to put together an offensive line. DeMarco Murray was the benefactor of that. Of course, he left in free agency. The Cowboys basically let Murray walk and decided to go with McFadden. And he's had moments this year. And I think what the Packers need to do on Sunday is make sure McFadden doesn't have a moment. This is an offensive line that can create holes, big holes, and if the Cowboys get that running game going, it could be a long day for Green Bay. You want to make Matt Castle beat you in this game. Now, Matt Castle has had some productive games, some productive years, but he's not a quarterback that scares you. I'm doing air quotes, the game manager type quarterback. What Jason Garrett is hoping is that Matt Castle doesn't screw it up. Don't turn the ball over. Try to put it in. Monday was a prime example. That game was probably the most boring game for about 58 minutes. And then all of a sudden the offense had decided to score. But Matt Castle is not going to move this offense up and down the field consistently unless the Green Bay Packers defense lets him. And the way that happens is McFadden gets going, is chipping off 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. Down in distance is manageable at 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 1s. You have to win on first down. You put Matt Castle in a situation where he's got to get big chunks of yards, that's where the Packers defense will thrive. If they get the running game going and it's 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, you can do play action, keep the pressure off Matt Castle. It's with any quarterback, Evan. You give him time. He's got some weapons. He's got Dez Bryant. He's got Jason Witten. Like you said, it seems like Witten is the old man in the NFL and been playing for 100 years. But they have to win down in distance. And the key for the Packers defense on Sunday, they have to win on first down. If the Packers defense wins on first down, I think, I don't want to say it's an easy day. There's never an easy day in the NFL. But if you make Matt Castle have to get big chunks of yards and basically eliminate McFadden from having a moment and having a moment game, the Green Bay Packers should be fine. And they just they have to create some turnovers. They should be able to against Matt Castle, and that's going to come again from putting him in situations where he has to go back, drop back, and throw. The Packers defense will thrive, Evan, if they have Matt Castle throw the ball 30 times. And again, it comes down to winning on first down. That's all I got on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, with that, we do got to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our great sponsor that we have for the Green Bay Packers edition of the Grueling Truth. But we come back, it's time to talk Packers offense. And who would have thought last year, at this time, who would have thought that I would have more fun talking about the defense than I do the offense? But unfortunately, we got to talk offense. That hasn't been playing too great for Green Bay. So we're going to talk about what the Packers need to do on offense to move the ball against this Cowboys front. So we'll be back in about a minute, and you've been listening to the Green Bay Packers edition of the Grueling Truth.
Hey, everybody, go check out a brand-new football app called Gridiron Mo. It's an app where you get to call what you think the offense or defense should do during a live NFL game and see what all others around the country have also called. So make sure you check out Gridiron Mo app at www.gridironmo.com.
And welcome back to the Green Bay Packers edition of the Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game, and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Mo. Go to gridironmo.com for more information on this wonderful app. And I might need to try this app out this week. Talking about the Packers offense. The offense has been criticized for being too predictable as of late by even Josh Sitton, Packer offensive guard. So I might have to try this app out to see if I'm correct, see if the offense is predictable. And the offense kind of is, I'm not going to lie. When it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, everybody knows what the Packers are going to do. They're going to try to do a toss right or a toss left or a sweep play. They never run up the middle. Maybe they should run up the middle sometime and they'll catch the defense off guard because they never run up the middle. So, but anyway, I might need to give this app a try and see what I think. But anyways, moving on, time to talk Dallas Cowboys and their defensive front, defense going up against this Packers banged up offense. Get into that in a minute. Defensively for the Cowboys, they run a 4-3 front, and they do a lot of slanting and stunts, which could bring some problems for Green Bay. They're 5th in yards allowed, 15th in points. They're 32nd in takeaways. Their defensive line, they are led by the despicable Greg Hardy and DeMarcus Lawrence. They're the best pass rushers the Cowboys have. Randy Gregory is a situational speed rusher. And then you got Tyrone Crawford, who's been fighting through a shoulder injury at defensive tackle at one spot. And then former Wisconsin Badger Nick Hayden at the other D tackle position. And be honest, no offense against Hayden, I loved when he played at Wisconsin. He's really just a guy. He isn't really anything special, doesn't offer you much. The one key player on their defense who missed all of last year at the torn ACL is Sean Lee. He's their weak side linebacker, and he's their leader. And the one key to keep in mind about him, he's really good when it comes to blitzing through the A-gap. And for those wondering, A-gap, what do you mean by that? Between the center and the guard on both sides is traditionally called the A-gap. And he is great at blitzing that gap. And that could pose some problems. I'll get into that in a minute, too. Rolando McClain is their middle linebacker. He's really strong against the pass, but really strong against the run, very questionable against the pass. This is a matchup that Richard Rodgers might be able to exploit a little bit if McClain's covering him. And the defensive backs of the Cowboys are good, but the question is, do the Packers have the wide receivers to beat them? They can be beat, but do they have the wide receivers to beat them? Not from what I've been seeing so far this season with the Packers at wide receiver. I don't know if the Packers can consistently beat the Cowboys wide receivers. The key is going to be the health of the offensive line. Bulaga was a limited participant today. Sitton was a limited participant. The center Lindsey didn't practice at all, and Lang was a limited participant. So that's a little concerning. They're still banged up. Reason why I brought up the Cowboys do a lot of stunts and slants. When Barclay left, and Barclay is a 4 participant. When Barclay left the game for a play, the Cowboys run a twist play where they send the defensive tackle one way and then loop the defensive end inside and go. And they took advantage of the Packers having that inexperience at the left tackle spot walking. And what happens? Rodgers takes a pretty hard hit. Lucky he didn't get concussed. And the drive stalls, and the Packers get forced to punt. The Cowboys, when you have an inexperienced offensive line, which the Packers could have again, if they have to play Barclay and Lane at guard and tackle again, and you have possibly J.C. Treader at the center position again. When you have a defensive line that does a lot of slants and twists and stunts, that can wreak havoc on a young offensive line, especially on an offensive line that doesn't have a lot of experience playing together. Because those guys tend to know what one another are going to do. They know that Lane knows how Bulag is going to react. Sitton knows how Bakhtiari is going to react. They know how each other are going to react, and they can anticipate. They can call things out, or they don't even have to call things out because they just know. When you have offensive line that you have different pieces in there, communication is going to be key, and that's one area I see the Cowboys trying to take a big time advantage of, doing a lot of twists, a lot of stunts, a lot of slants. Especially if the Packers are going with the same offensive line they did against the press. And that could cause a lot of problems for Aaron Rodgers. And the other thing with Sean Lee being really strong blitzing A-gap, Packers have struggled at times this season protecting that A-gap and pressure up the middle. There was the Carolina play when the Packers had a chance to potentially tie it at the end. They sent pressure up the A-gap. Rodgers has to rush the throw, and it gets intercepted. Against Chicago, again, pressure up A-gap. Rodgers has to rush the throw. If you get pressure in A-gap, you're going to force the quarterback to have to rush his throw. And Rodgers is already having a trust issue right now with his wide receivers. When you have him get forced to rush, you could cause some problems. The key for the Packers offense is they got to run the ball. They got to run the ball. The Cowboys have their 15th versus the run, 5th versus the pass. They give up about 104 yards per game on the ground. Let's run the ball. It might be raining too. Let's run the ball. Let's run it down their throats. Treader's a great run blocker. They did pretty well running the ball at times against Detroit. They just got away from it at times. But they got to run the ball. And the big thing is they got to protect Aaron Rodgers. Cowboys have an athletic and active front. I already talked about if I'm the Cowboys defensive coordinator, what I'm going to do, especially with 4 offensive linemen banged up. Actually, all 5 offensive linemen banged up, really, if you think about it. But that's key for the offense. Protect Aaron Rodgers and run, because I'm not going to hold my breath, Troy, that the wide receivers for Green Bay are going to consistently win one-on-one battles against the Cowboys secondary. I'm not convinced until they show me otherwise. Will they? I don't know. But I will not be convinced until they show me that they can beat a guy one-on-one. And at this point this season, they just haven't. But I think Abadares might get a little bit involved, too, in the passing game, since he seems to be the only guy that has shown he can get open. So what are your thoughts on the Packers' offense in this game?
Well, I'm going to start right where you did. We went through our wish list last night. You and I were talking before the show. For those listening in, if you want to check out a pretty interesting show, like you said, Evan, a fun show last night. It was a wish list. We went through some of the teams that are knocking on playoffs doors. So if you want to listen to that, folks, go to the redlightsportsnetwork.com. Check out last night's episode. It's basically what do you wish for your favorite NFL team. It was a great episode. And I'm just going to follow what you and I said yesterday. There are 2 keys to this game. Offensive line, like you mentioned, being able to I don't even want to say protect Rodgers at this point, Evan. I want this offensive line to get fierce and, like I was just saying on the other side with the Cowboys, to open up holes for the run game. I know Eddie Lacy was in the doghouse for a little bit due to some off-the-field issues, but if Eddie Lacy can get his head on and can be that power running back and the offensive line can open up just a little hole and he can hit that gap hard, that running game should be able to, help the Packers move the chains. The other thing you talk about, though, is you are grasping for straws, Evan. If you think all of a sudden that after 12 weeks of not happening that these receivers are getting open in Week 13 against the Cowboys, I don't see it happening. There's something going on there. And teams have found on film a way to aggravate Packer receivers. This is going to come down to coaching, Evan, and putting receivers in spots so they can get open. And you got to get them into space. You got to try and figure out a way, formation-wise and matchup-wise. You've got to look at strengths and weaknesses. And I'm not saying that the Packers aren't doing that. It just seems like something's missing. Randall Cobb can't get open. And James Jones, okay, aging veteran, so on and so forth. But it really surprised me that Randall Cobb cannot get open. And it's very evident at this point that Rodgers is frustrated with his receiving corps because even when he has time, his receivers are not getting open, and therefore he's having to take a sack, or he's having to throw the ball away, or he's having to use his legs and he's going to have to run for a first down. So it is key if they can figure out how to get open, but I don't think it's going to happen. Like you said, don't hold your breath. Hasn't happened in 12 weeks. Why would it happen in Week 13? The Cowboys don't have a bad defense. It's offensively where they've had their problems because of Tony Romo being injured, no DeMarco Murray in the backfield, relying on McFadden. Like I said, certain games, he's had his moments. But offensively, Evan, the key for the Packers is offensive line run blocking, opening up holes, whether it starts, whether it's Lacy. The Packers need to run the ball. We've talked about it over and over all year. The Packers need to find balance. They can't throw the ball 40 to 50 times. They need to run the rock 25 times. And whether it's Lacy, whether it starts, whether it's a combination, they have to establish that run. And then, again, just to recap, receivers need to find a way to get open, and whether that be through different formations, different things, Cobb in the backfield, so on and so forth, they've got to figure it out. And the back shoulder pass, I can't remember, and I'll throw this question to you, and then you can take it from there. When's the last time, Evan, that you can remember Rodgers completing a back shoulder pass?
It's been a while. It's actually been a while since I've even seen him attempt one. One of the things with the back shoulder, it's all about timing between the quarterback and the receiver. And before Adams got hurt earlier in the year, they were trying to get in that rhythm with Devontae Adams on that back shoulder throw, but they just could not get on the same page, and then Adams got hurt. I don't think they've even attempted it since before Devontae Adams' injury. Because since Adams has come back, they didn't run it all without Adams. And since Adams has come back, I don't recall seeing the back shoulder throw. But it's it'll be interesting to see if they're able to find a way to get moving with that particular throw. And because if they can, it's very hard to cover. But yeah, like I said, I haven't seen them run it since, like I said, before Adams' injury. But maybe they'll be able to get back to it. But looking at the time, we do got to give predictions. It is that time. And the one thing I want to see in this game, and this is what the only thing for me that's going to convince me that the Packers are back. Last week's game was a very emotional win. But the one thing that's going to convince me that they are back to being, a solid team, is a convincing win over the Cowboys. That is what's going to convince me in regards to if they're back or not. If we don't see that, I don't know if we're going to see that or not. But like I said, that's going to convince me. And maybe this is just what they need in regards to this might just be what they need, this game against the Cowboys. But looking at it, looking at this game, I see the Packers winning, but unfortunately it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be a tough game going on early. Packers are going to be able to do just enough to win it. And I see them winning 24-20, 26-20 type game. So I see the Packers winning, but it's going to be another close matchup. I'm going to say 24-20.
Well, I was debating, knowing that this show is going to be on tonight, I was going to have to give a prediction. And I said it after the game when we did our recap that maybe finally, now that the ball went the Packers' way with this Hail Mary, that maybe this is going to spark the enthusiasm. This is going to help the Packers propel and do some better things. I look at the Cowboys, and I'm finishing up last night's episode to post it, and we talked a little bit about the Cowboys being one game out of first place at 4-8. When I match things up on paper, and I look at the Cowboys offense, Matt Castle led, Darren McFadden in the backfield. Yeah, they got Des Bryant. They've got a good offensive line. I like this Packers defense, Evan. It's been a while that I've been this excited about a athletic-type defense that does good things, that has at times really stepped up and kept teams out of the end zone. And this Cowboys offense struggles without Tony Romo in the game. And I think that the Packers defense can do some things against Matt Castle. I'm not going to say they're going to shut him out, but I think they're going to do a good job. And this is a defense that has made teams kick field goals and kept them out of the end zone. I think the Packers, this is my wow moment. I think the Packers keep the Cowboys out of the end zone on Sunday. And I think the Packers win 28-9.
So, 28-9 from Troy, 24-20 from me, and we'll see who's right. I hope we both have a win, but I hope score-wise, Troy, you're more right than I am. I wouldn't mind a game that we're not biting our nails to the bone, to the knuckle game. We've had that the last few weeks. I would like a game that I can just watch and chill at the end here. I don't have to, scream for joy because they have a Hail Mary completed pass for the win, and then my voice is gone then my voice is gone temporarily. But with that said, we do appreciate you all for giving us the listen, the Green Bay Packers edition of the Grueling Truth. I also want to thank Mike Goodpaster, the founder, the guy who's given us the opportunity to do this show on a basis, and then Matt Anders Scavage as well. I hope I pronounced his name all right. I apologize if I got it wrong. Shout out to him as well, and to his wife too. Last week, his wife had surgery, so hope for a speedy recovery for her. But with that said, we'll get back at you next week, hopefully talking Packer victory, and before we preview next week's game. Make sure to check us out at the redlightsportsnetwork.com for our other programming that we do. So with that, until next week, I hope you all have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend, and go Pack, go.